Terra's story, Chapter 17. The streets empty now with a state of emergency stay-at-home order, made for quicker traveling but left Terra with an uneasy post-apocalyptic feeling as they drove past darkened businesses. She'd been relieved when Brian slid into the driver's seat of the department's nondescript sedan they'd requisitioned. "I know the route, Kano, and we're about 45 minutes out, so relax and talk to me," he invited. "About?" She quirked an eyebrow at him. "Okay, back up a minute then. I'll get us past the niceties." He slowed as he approached a bigger intersection, checked for traffic, then sped through. "I spent the last 8 years of my military service in the remote viewing division, so yes, my instincts are finely tuned, enough to know you have some paranormal gifts too, and so does Joan." He glanced her way. Her mouth was quirked up at the corners and her eyes twinkled. He winked and continued. "She's cute, and she's a remarkable asset. How much of her research is mental and how much psychic? I'll bet even when she's using the internet, she's following the energy and sensing into connections and patterns. She's got multidimensional talents, and so do you." Terra chuckled. "You're right, and I read you too, Brian. So here's the deal." She thought a moment, feeling into how much to tell him, then dove in. "Have you ever heard of a Mo?" He shook his head. "Explain, please." Terra grimaced. How to explain how she could become a mythical creature? She took a deep breath and dove in. "In Hawaii, we have legends of lizard gods, some deadly to humans, others protective of humans. King Kamehameha honored a Mo'o who helped him win the Battle of Nuuanu by building it a heiau, which is an altar, in Waikiki. They're believed to be omniscient and able to manipulate weather and the ocean, like sending a big wave to wash people off the trails to eat them. They live in fish ponds and lagoons. My Mamo Simeona has a relationship with one in her pond on Molokai, and so do I. We're always careful to make sure she's in a good mood, but generally, when Mo'os are consistently respected, they become beneficent and protective." She paused, remembering her time in the cave with Mama and that first deep dive into her inner darkness. "And I—" Terra hesitated, reluctant to have her sacred experience defiled with disbelief. "And you have an inner Mo also," Brian guessed. "One you're still getting to know. Cap told me you'd taken some time off to go home to Molokai, and when you got back, you were whole again." Terra released the breath she'd been holding. "How did you know that, Brian? I haven't told anybody but Joni." "I'm clairsentient too, Terra. Not clairvoyant so much. If I see images, they're behind my eyes. Usually I just know, but in your case, I've caught glimpses of your Mo'u. Some of her as a gorgeous woman, more Hawaiian-looking than your usual blonde gorgeousness, and some as a dangerous dragon." He was silent for a few minutes, watching for the stunned express on Terra's face to indicate that she'd assimilated what he'd just told her. When she leaned back in her seat, the tension had gone out of her body. The tautness in his hands on the steering wheel relaxed, too. "Her name is Baby," Terra whispered. "I'm happy to meet you, Baby." Brian retorted. "I have a feeling you're going to be a valuable asset on this case." His glance slid sideways again. "Terra." He took a breath, then released it. "Thanks for trusting me, and just so you know, I shift into other forms too. My primary is a hawk, which lets me get the bigger picture." "You know that once you can shift into one creature, you can become whichever one you need in the moment, right?" "I didn't until today. I just got the message a little while ago. I always thought humans could have only one power animal, but that's not true." Terra's confusion showed as storm clouds of energy passing across her countenance. "It may have been in the past, but I know it's not true now." Brian spoke with certainty. "With this accelerated evolution we're all in, what some call the ascension, including Mother Earth, time is stretching and contracting, and the aspects of ourselves we're calling home know how to do all sorts of things we've forgotten in our birth memory wipe." Terra felt the inner resonance of truth, so she bobbed her head in agreement. "I'm pretty sure there are lots of old shamans and shamanas who not only could shapeshift, but also jump dimensions and timelines, teleport and bilocate, stuff like that." "Yup, I know it. And now, here we are, bringing the ancient technologies back into practice to help manage the dark energies of the human shadow that have to arise in order to clear." He had stopped at the guardhouse and rolled down his window to speak to the guard. Grim and Kano, here to interview a couple of detainees. He flashed his badge and Terra reached over so the guard could see hers too. Are you on generators? The guard ducked down to where he could see inside the sedan. Yeah, we have big-ass generators to work the gates and the locks. Don't care about lights, but sure do about security. Good to know, Brian responded as the gate in front of the sedan slid open. See you on the way out. They followed the road around the campus to the parking lot at the back of the compound, then were double-checked as they passed through the guard station at the rear of the building. A deputy waited in the bare reception area. We have the two detainees in separate interrogation rooms. That's how you want it, right? For starters, yes, Terra confirmed, but we might want to change strategy at some point. Will you be standing by? Yes, I'll be behind the mirror. Just signal if you need anything. Water's in the rooms, but nothing else. You want to see the setup? Yep, yes, they replied in unison. The deputy led them to a stairway and through a door to a room that smelt like stale coffee and frustration. Through the one-way glass, they could see both interrogation rooms. The man in the left one was slightly built, with a shock of hair from the top of his head that he kept brushing away from the thick lenses he wore. The effect was incongruous since the rest of his skull was shaved as clean as his face. He sat hunched over the battered table, then suddenly laid his forehead onto his forearms like a pillow and went still. The woman in the right interrogation room was also slight, but her face was hidden by the thick darkness of long bangs over her eyes and curtains of shoulder-length hair on the sides. When she stood to pace restlessly around the small space, Terra could see that she also wore thick lenses. Her movements were quick and agitated. Let's start with Chong-Chi, Brian suggested. Good cop, bad cop? Terra nodded. I'll be the bad cop to start, and maybe we switch midstream. Sometimes works to throw them off. Deal, Brian spoke over his shoulder as he led the way down the stairs.